Hey, what's up, audience? How have you been? Good, good, good. Me? All right. Well, I woke up. I had some downloads, so to speak, some realizations, and here we are talking about it. Um, Again, I mean, these realizations, they're sort of like, um, they're always the same, but sometimes they're relevant to the time that we're experiencing. And you hear me often talk about the energy weather, which is a type of phenomena of time and space. And this is exactly what I want to talk about. Um, and I want to talk about does it relate to this idea that you are everything. I'm sure you've heard this before, saying I am everything or I am nothing. This is usually part of the uh, teachings of how to. Attempts are really is to teach you alchemy and devotion, which, by the way, is the only thing that makes the change in quality in your life. And it relates to the fact that you are everything. So let's just look at this idea that you are everything. And what does that mean? Um, well, spoiler alert, I'm going to say that it is a feeling. Being nothing is a feeling, primordial feeling. You can say that this stillness and peace where there's just nothing, it's not nothing, obviously, it's your essence, and that peace is alive. It's not dead, it's not static, it's alive. It's a live part of you, and it is a feeling. I'm going to name it as a feeling. Some people may say, well, it is a non feeling, but that's just like splitting hairs. For the sake of the language and for the sake of referring to it, it is a feeling. And we can call it love, peace, and whatever. And perhaps that part is best not to be named because you cannot be arrived to it from the memory. For example, say, well, I felt like really good back then. So I'm looking for that same feeling from the past. It was very peaceful. I'm looking for the same feeling. And then you're not going to find it because you already labeled something, you put it in the memory, and now you're going to be looking for it and you're going to go into the seeking. You have to be completely approaching every time the essence in a complete innocence, meaning that you do not have a method and you do not have any kind of preconceived notion, not even the memory. And you will discover it again from fresh, from new, and it's going to be fresh and new. And that's the phenomena which is kind of fascinates me, that in that essence, in that infinite, there seems to be this phenomena that logically cannot be explained or it makes no sense. The feeling of it getting better and better infinitely, and that's what gives you this contentment because it's continuously getting better and better and better. How is that possible? But in that state, it is possible. It does feel a little bit maybe like tripping or falling or whatever, right? But I'm talking about this stillness, the quiet, the peace, which is accessed through the surrender. That again is the word that allows you to kind of refer to that act that you do with your heart or your soul. And to me, it seems that seems to be a a trainable habit, so to speak. I seem to also get better and better at becoming aware of that background of everything, that essence. Okay. There's a lot that I want to say, but I just want to say it in a concise, precise way. So, okay, we're talking about that being nothing. But then there's also another side of being everything. And I relate being everything and being nothing to through courage, you can be everything, and through surrender, you can be nothing. And both are necessary. Both are necessary. However, it seems that for a man, it's most of the time it's about courage, and some of the time it's about surrender. And it seems that no soul that is playing a masculine role is going to get away with just being in devotion. It's just not going to get away with that. And at the same time, it's just not going to get away with being always in the courage and always like in that maniac mode. That's also too much. You have to have some surrender for the courage to balance it out. And it may be, again, these are numbers that are just intuitively out of the top of my head, that it's about 20% of the time a masculine masculine soul requires an experience of what it's like to surrender 20% of the time, and the rest of the time it's about the courage. Don't quote me on these numbers because I just pulled them out of the magic box. But it gives you a rough idea that it doesn't work always going one way. And you can see some people, for example, some people call it the tantric approach or Vedantic approach. Rupert Spira talks about this, and he talks tantric and Vedantic. Then the neti thing, and then I am everything kind of thing. I am also that. I'm not that. So, and he also says that it's you need both, and I agree with him that you do need both. And I think I'm just gonna go and say that you do need that and the particular ratios based on what kind of soul you're playing. This is why people who are kind of practicing this devotion all the time and are being too much in there, life starts poking at them and saying like, no, you're not gonna get away with that only. You got to also taste what it's like to gain wisdom. You can't be always just floating in that innocence, because then you don't have like any kind of you don't have any kind of wisdom to know what to surrender to. And so then this is why, because you're in that you're gonna end up in surrendering into something that you're not supposed to, and that's how it's gonna test you. So okay, and then in that test you're gonna have to learn what it's like having those divine boundaries. Okay, so let's reconcile this being everything idea. Okay, so what the hell is this being everything? You may say, well, wait a second, what the hell are you talking about? I am everything. I mean, I'm also these things that I see in the world that is negative and bad. Now, of course, you have to see it, but if you're listening to people saying that they do exist, then that doesn't necessarily true that they do exist. That might be just an illusion, and it is an illusion. Everything that you've experienced, but you, of course, you've experienced something that you could see the people behaving in a quite dysfunctional and a corrupt way, and so that's your personal experience. And you say, well, am I everything? Am I also these people that are basically, you know, crooks and whores? Am I also these people? And am I the people who are supposedly, controlling the entire planet, uh, and writing the code of the society in a corrupt way and enforcing that corrupt way to for the personal gains? Am I also that person? Uh, or whoever you may see to be the most evil being? So am I also that? And the answer is yes, but we gotta look a little bit deeper to see what is going on. Everything is made out of the consciousness, and everything that you see in your immediate experience is real, and it's always you. There's nothing else. You can say, well, what about the universe is big? Like, am I also that? Yes, you are that. But not, there's no world out there. Everything that you see, it's there. But you see, as you move through space-time, it appears to be showing you a one type of, space, another, and it seems to be have a memory. It seems to have a memory. You travel through it, and it's like, well, I've seen this house before, and it's still there, so it's kind of recorded, right? But it's a type of film. It's a 3D film, time-space film, that is part of your consciousness. It's part of you. You're projecting it also. You're projecting through it, so to speak. So you've experienced, and it gives you an illusion of you navigating through it. But the memory of it is you. Is part of you. It's that film, and it's changing. It's changing based on time. For example, if you drive through a certain place at one point in time, you may see there's a house there. Another time, there's no more house there, or maybe there's a restaurant now. Or you drive through, there's a restaurant, it's called this way. You drive next year, it's called different way. So it's changed. The time space film, or that part of consciousness that shaped for you to experience the world as semi-static, has changed, and it is changing all the time. And it is because part of you, that film, it has the things that what you would call anti-you. It has things that is not love and light. It has things that it's not bliss and it's not peace. It has the things that instead of love there is hate, and if it's instead of truth there's lie. And so you can ask, like, what is that me? And the answer is kind of yes and no. And you have to be careful. You have to put these ideas that I'm everything, and like, oh, I'm also that, so like I might as well be part of it. No, it's a contrast. It is contrasting with your essence. And so the consciousness has folded in a way to not to sort of diffract the light in a harmonious way. It folded on purpose in a distorted way, so there could be a challenge for you. When there is no in your environment, love or truth, you got to find that within yourself, and that kind of forces you to go within to find who you are. And going through this experience of this horrible experience of Earth, what it does, it allows you to discover who you are on individual basis, on a soul basis. You can become, so to speak, a godly soul, but it's not possible to be that if you have not gone through the contrasting experience, if you have not gone through the alchemical and devotional process through the experience like this, like what we're having here. And it is like a cartridge, a video game called Earth. and it's part of us. We project it all, and because it's part of us, because it's inside of us, we are in a total control of it. Of what's going to happen in the world depends on you. And because if you have affected yourself in a sense, for example, you saw something that is kind of messed up, right? And it created a rage feeling inside of you, right? It's a type of passion. It's a fire type of passion. It's not the passion of light. It's a passion of fire. Now, that passion is basically going to continue saying yes to the thing that you don't want to see in your reality, because that's how consciousness works. Like, okay, if you throw the fire on it, okay, there's more of it. And you're going to end up seeing more of that dysfunctional thing because you're putting the passion on it, not peace. The correct thing to do when the fire arises in response to that person or that event, the correct thing to do is to bring that fire into peace and compassion. That's when you take that fire into that nothingness. That's where you want that fire to become nothing. And that fire becomes like a warm peace, at least that's how it feels like to me. Whereas before, my reaction would have been like anger or even rage to, like, you can call it people call it dharmic anger, or for the injustice. That's okay, that's gonna happen. But your job is to take that fire and to zero it out into the compassion. So what you have done in that moment is about that specific distortion that you've seen in this time-space reality. You have made a change. Okay? You have made a change with the entire reality because you're projecting it, right? And if a film, you've changed the film, that's what you're going to be projecting. And everywhere you go, you're going to be projecting a new movie where that is no longer the case. There is an echo. I've made in one of the previous videos, I made a point saying that there's going to be an echo coming around and showing you the same thing. But the only reason it's going to come around and show you the same thing is to test you if you really have driven that to compassion. If there's a little trigger there, all right, that's good. Bring it back home again. Another cycle comes along, it tests you again. And then whenever your response to that thing that enraged you, that injustice that enraged you, is peace, that's when the system sees that, okay, that's dissolved. We're not shooting that in a projection reality anymore in the simulation. Okay? And so that's the game we're playing. And as we go through this time-space experience, every day has these certain types of energies. And it gives us opportunities to alchemize or go through the process of devotion as it's necessary. Okay. And that changes the entire world because you are projecting the entire world. You may also ask the question, so wait a second, I mean, like, how can there be two creators of the reality? There isn't. There's only one truth. There's only one bliss. My bliss and your bliss, it's bliss. It's not yours or mine. Okay? And the truth is the feeling. The Christ energy, sometimes people call it. Organ energy, whatever. That is that there's only one. The same thing with love, peace. There's only one peace. There's only one love. But you have a unique soul that projects that love and peace in a unique, or bliss and peace, in a unique way. This is why this question is like, wouldn't we be in a conflict if I'm creating the reality and alchemizing everything, and you are creating the same thing? Aren't we in a conflict? Because it seems that, like, I'm taking the ultimate power and you're taking the ultimate power, and how is that possible that two beings can take an ultimate power? And the answer is that the reason there is no conflict, because the projection of peace and bliss through you directly is compatible. Your uniqueness is directly compatible with my uniqueness. That's why there is no conflict. Because your true soul desire is in a direct compatibility with my soul desire. It's always the case from that state. And this is why you go ahead and create the image of the world that you want, and it's going to be just like mine. And perhaps my expression is going to be unique, your expression is going to be unique, but the vision, it did not come from me and you personally. It came from the universal, holistic. This is why from that holistic state of mind, holistic society emerges naturally. And this is why the holistic society can only emerge when the consciousness is changing of the human beings. And as you can see, there is no I can't do this inside of you. It's all inside of me. And you may say, well, what is it? If you're doing it and I'm not doing, so what's then going to happen? In my reality, you will be doing it. Because if I've changed it, that I'm projecting a new reality, you're going to be up to me, you're going to be appearing like you are also on the same path. And vice versa. Okay? Otherwise, if I'm creating the version of the reality where holistic society is emerging and matrix society is disintegrating, then that's what's going to happen. And it's just the way it is. And so everybody in that particular reality is going to appear like they're also evolving. But from your perspective, you say like, well, I had to do all the work and stuff like that. And I say, no. You see what I'm trying to say? It's a bit trippy, but I think looking at this way, you can reconcile of how it all works. Because there's only your world. And you may say like, why am I even making these videos talking about this? If all I have to do is do my alchemy, my devotion, everything is in the world changing the way it's supposed to change, why make these videos? Well, honestly, enjoyment. That's why I do it. Because I enjoy them. Whether it's like, and if you're watching the video and you're enjoying, then that's all good. It's this more like a sharing of your energy than anything else, really. The information, what I'm saying is like, of course you have that available. It's not about information. That was the whole point of Krishnamurti's teaching. Is not about information. You can't buy information. Information is always free and it's available. This is why this idea that, by the way, that one of the laws that's been corrupted with society is that it allowed to own information, or it allowed to own software. That's ridiculous. A corporation cannot own software and it cannot own information. It's a recipe for disaster. You can't allow that to happen in the state. Okay? All applications must be decentralized and peer-to-peer, directly from person to person, and no corporation involved there. It's against the law of nature. Authors must be reimbursed, but not the corporations or the publishers, because they're not really doing anything. They're just the gatekeepers. And they control how you interact with each other. They don't have your interests at heart. They have the financial interest. You see what I'm trying to say? It's basically corrupted law. It should never have been allowed to exist. And of course, what I'm saying is big change, and it will happen. Um, there will be no corporate software corporations. Even right now, you don't have to live using a single software corporation application. You can have there's Linux phones. Um, Linux is open source. Anyway, I don't want to go on that subject. But what I'm trying to say here is it will happen naturally as consciousness change. Okay. And speaking of this energy weather or energy climate, every day there's something. For example, last couple of days, I felt sort of like a wall type of energy, like, and immediately, like I felt like cut off from everybody outside of me, and okay, I welcome that, and I go inside, and then I reconnect with everybody through the inside, if that makes sense. But there is a change. What I'm trying to say, there is a change that allows you to do the alchemy and devotion um, to make that change. And a change happens globally. But as you can see, you cannot take the credit for it. You cannot do any of these ego things because the very alchemy and devotion is eroding the ego. If anything, you can sort of like see this as the best way to do it is to see it as a game. You can see it as a responsibility, but I don't like that, man. Like having, you can call it responsibility, but because whether you're going to respond to it or not, of course, it's up to you. And because you already signed up to this game, you're going to have to. It's not going to be another way. On this trajectory, in this particular trajectory of the planet Earth, I mean, I've realized something about me that I can't give up on this path. It's just because not because I, how to say, it's not because I have a choice. There is no choice. I tried to be quote unquote normal, very hard, and it just would not happen. And so then I realized that it's hard coded. This is not something, and sometimes people say, well, don't give up, keep going. It's not like you can, in my case, and of course in your case too. It's not like you can. You're already on the trajectory of this particular timeline, right? And even if you slip up and fall, it's gonna bring you back in again and make you face the challenge that you failed the last time. And this is why. This is just like only one ideal timeline that we are all on. Because I am on it, therefore you are on it too. Otherwise, you would not watch this video. All these people that like on a different timelines already unsubscribed when they heard something that, that they couldn't handle or whatnot. So this is how you reconcile this idea that you are everything, including all these negative things that are there to be alchemized. And as I always say, there's two types. Um, Sometimes you gotta bring it to the compassion, and sometimes you gotta bring it to passion. About something that you do want in life, you gotta raise the passion about it. And something that you don't want, you gotta lower it to stillness. And so as you go through world, and these are the reactions that you have to the things inside you, you're reshaping and changing it the way that fits you, your soul desire. That's how soul um, understands of what you're trying to create. It doesn't work through pain or pleasure. That's body, and that's fine. The body is supposed to work like this. It's supposed to feel pleasure when eating, when it needs to eat, and pain when it's stepping on something sharp or whatnot, right? That's body. But the soul does not work. And this is why you should never, it may be difficult, but you should never, ever educate another human being through pain and pleasure. You're just gonna, it's just not gonna work. Uh, it's just not gonna work. And that includes you. And not only that includes you, it is you. It's how you treat your own soul. That's how you're gonna treat another soul. Okay. And of course, I also have to say something that we say, for example, like, well, there's a lot of stories, a lot of information that there's somebody in like a Orion cluster. There's somebody super evil that always controls the earth astrally or whatnot, and this is why all these people have a drive to be, you know, control the world through like CIA or through the corporate media or through the corporations or whatever, right? Like, so there is this drive in human beings to do that. That seemingly why what the fuck were you doing? What the fuck, you know what I'm trying to say? It's nobody's happy. They're not happy people. They get off on some things like domination and whatnot. They get off, and like they sexually get off on it. But then there's also a crash, and there's a downward spiral, and then there is this rock bottom and all that fucking shit that happens, right? Then we say, why does it happen? But the thing is that I've heard these stories, but these are stories. To me, the entire universe is like a location in the video game, or locations in or time space locations in this video game, which is me. All of them are accessible to me because they're part of me. I've never, of course, like, um, somebody said that it comes from Orion, and okay, maybe, I don't know, but what I do know is that when I was exploring my own consciousness, which is the universe as well, I visited the most darkest, the most vile places that there is. Um, because I don't know, maybe I'm crazy like that, but I wanted the logic behind it was this: if I face the most vile, the most disgusting things within myself, then whatever is going to be left must be beautiful. And so I take this approach in life, and I say, I'm gonna face the most darkest, the most vile places in my consciousness. And it's a crazy journey, I have to say. I have to say something about this. I guess I'm sharing something that you've probably been through yourself. But it's cool, kind of, compare the little stories. So, and I visited one place that you could probably, uh, that I could say that that was like the darkest place that I've ever been to. I don't know how I made it out of it with my mind intact, um, but I've been there. And you can call that the most evil place in the universe. Maybe that was Orion. I don't know. Um, but there was also a very strong sensation, or not sensation, or a feeling that I have done it all. That in that darkest place, which was like everything, it was like a abyss, hell, poison, whatever you want to call it, like confusion. It was all of these elements in a complete and total disorder. Um, and and there was an unshakable feeling that I've created it all. In a sense, to create that challenge for the video game. And when I say I, there was something obviously deeper inside of me to have created that um, challenge in order to face it and overcome it for the sake of enjoyment. You may say, like, what? This is like, it's kind of almost like a masochistic experience. and and life is a little bit like that. Life is a little bit like that, but it could go in a very positive and a beautiful way. There is a way to face these vile things and have a resolution of it. Now, I also have to say about, sometimes people call about this false light, or there's a point there as you explore it that pretends to be that light. It pretends to be the real bliss, but it's a trap. It is that false light, as you call it, as people call it. And let me explain what that is. So, every distortion that you have, which is a challenge in this video game, of course, you got to overcome each one, right? That's the point of it. Eventually, you get to the ultimate one, and I'll explain a little more about that ultimate one. But it's like a tree. Everything stems from one. Sometimes, like Lords of the Ring, one ring to rule it all. And then you got branch out. But as you play the video game, you play through the branches, because that's the only way to discover that root cause. You got to go through the little goblins to get to the devil, so to speak, right? But once you get to it, then you see it through your own experience, and you see what that is, and I'll get to it in a moment. But as you go through this, there will be a temptation and a trap that pretends to be that light. When I call light, I mean bliss. It's a very specific feeling. And as you have these distortions, there is distortion wants to be resolved, right? It is a desire. It's a desire. It can be that desire can be resolved into sort of like a, what I call like mining for gems. You discover the gem, and that gem is always almost like a continuous state of consciousness that is accessible to you all the time. The desire is desire and contentment in one, permanently in you all the time. Now, but on the way on this journey, what may happen is that you may get in a bit of a trap, because you may engage in some activities that temporarily hit that button, so to speak, right? To fulfill desire. Some people may say is they call it traumas or wounds. And so when you have a wound, and usually it corresponds to the sexuality, usually it's to do with lust. That's how it gets you. And so when you have that distortion, one way of doing it is a dark way, and of course, Eyes Wide Shut. If you've never seen it, check it out. You can do it in a dark way. And as long as you're doing it, it's going to be pacifying that distortion. But you got to depend on it because it gets you off, so to speak. And so for the time being, you're good, and you need to get off on it again through some dark shit, and that includes open relationships, orgies, all sorts of these dark side, uh, uh, activities that temporarily gives you a fix. But the problem with that is that those fixes will stop working eventually. Downward spiral. And then once they stop working, you're going to be ending up facing all of this vile shit that you've accumulated by engaging into this thing. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a way to alchemize and use devotion on every distortion, and every distortion is actually hidden gem upon alchemy and devotion. Okay, but there's a dark way to deal with them, and this is why as long as you're doing these activities, you may have that dirty light, that not even a good way. It is type of false light that simulates and pretends to be that real bliss, but it's very unclean, and it's always had that dark side, and it always has the crash. Okay? So I just wanted to say that some people may be under delusion, maybe under illusion, and some of these ayahuasca guzzlers are on this trap. It's an illusion that they have already, faced everything, whatever, but it's not true. And this is why, like, sometimes there's no such thing as Mother Ayahuasca. There's no such thing as Father Mushroom. There's no such thing. They're talking with their own egos when they refer to this. And so that's why you see this phenomenon. A lot of people, and some famous, a little bit more famous people, they showed to the world of what the fuck is going on with that level of false light thing. So can everybody see now? And it's not about, like opening relationships, and it's not about getting into the like twisted sexual rituals or whatever. It's not about that. That's a dark path, and everybody who chooses the dark path will pay a big price. And I know this because I fell for it for a moment, but there was always something in back of my voice, like, no, that's not it. And so I did not go all the way, but there was a lot of strong temptation to go that way. And I chose the other way, which is alchemy. And that brought me so much more bliss than I could ever imagine, unconditionally. Okay? And so I no longer rely. Of course, there are some little challenges here and there, but the big one is in the rearview mirror, if at all. But I just wanted to make this point that these people called childhood traumas, I never seen a childhood trauma. To me, it's a belief. But you can call it whatever you want. But there are these distortions, wounds. People call it, I don't like all them wounds because it means that somebody inflicted them. But nobody inflicted them, that you have done it to yourself before you played this video game. You came here with these distortions. These distortions created a negative event, and they're going to keep on creating as long as these distortions still exist and you have not faced them and worked through them. Work, not a good thing. Journey through them, not the right word I meant. So as long as you did not journey through them, these events are going to continue happening. Okay? This is all personal responsibility, It's okay. Again, I just want to say something very specific. Those sexual things that you're getting off, for example, this attraction to horse, um, or or from the masculine side, or the attraction to crooks and criminals, the dark side of a masculine or dark side of the feminine. That if there is an attraction in you, then you still have not worked through that thing. And to me, that was very clear that I have not worked because I had this strange freaking attraction to horse. I don't know. But then I realized that um, I didn't realize it. I just had to face this, and then I lost it. I lost it, and now it doesn't do anything to me. It doesn't do anything for me. It's sort of like very neutral. But before, it would elicit passion in me. But now it doesn't do anything. And I became more passionate about the opposite of that, the loyalty, the faithfulness. That became sexy to me. So, and that happens upon alchemy and devotion and finding that little gem that was inside of you. Isn't it crazy? It's pretty crazy. I guess that's it. But our, you know, life is about purpose and meaning. But when it goes too much about purpose, it loses the meaning. Too much about meaning, it loses the purpose. It has to be man life. It has to be 80% about purpose, 20% about meaning, and woman is supposed to be 80% about meaning and 20% about purpose. I'm just putting these numbers to yeah, look. These numbers may not be exact. Somebody who's a mathematician and well versed in sacred geometry could probably give me these numbers more accurate. But um, more or less, that's what it is. What else I can say? And being everything feels like bliss, and being nothing feels like peace. And being somewhere in between is something in between. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's difficult to describe it, but if I were to describe it, I would say luminosity and sparkles. All right, so, oh, that's right. I said about that the ring that rules them all. So look, the the joke of it all is this ultimate distortion. You know, those little distortions you can alchemize and you can have like a tree of gems. But the last one, the ultimate one, the biggest one, is interesting because um, it does not go away, because that point of that point requires your full attention and awareness. And so the only way you could remain living life in this infinite bubble while going through time is if your attention and awareness are sort of unified around that thing that you would call distortion. So it's almost like in this reality, in this video game, in time space, and the only thing that it gives you these challenges and the problems in life is that last thought, last primordial thought, if you will, of time space. And that's what separates the logos from the eros, awareness from attention, many words to describe the same thing. But once you get the habit of always having the attention with your awareness through that separation, in other words, in this particular world, if awareness doesn't have your full attention, then there's a chance for that thing to seep through, if that makes sense. Another thing, love is lost without the light. Here in this world, love is lost without the light. And what is a light? Your attention. This is why ultimately I've discovered that it's not about, no longer about, oh, I'm going to overcome it and then it will be it. It is becoming a continuous like a part of my daily life. Does that make sense? Because what else you gonna do with your soul? Well, soul, heart, whatever. Because that is what puts the attention on the awareness, so to speak, or puts the attention on some distortion that is uncomfortable inside of you. And like I showed you before, like there's no actual method, but there's an eye. Your soul is like an eye. It has the capacity to blur, and it has the capacity to focus, and you can do that. And there's a choice of where you're going to look. And sometimes you don't want to look at the most disgusting thing, but that's exactly where you need to be looking. You look there, put attention, dissolve, and it is becoming sort of like a daily thing. And the only way I see it is it becomes such a habit that it just happens automatically to you. It's almost like your soul knows where to look automatically, what to do automatically, because it became such a habit. That's, at least that's just the way I'm experiencing. I don't know, maybe other people don't experience like that. But once you get the taste of it, then you don't want to look at anything else, because you find the very essence of what you call ultimate reward, which is that bliss energy. So we can call it like, getting hooked on gods, but I don't want to say that either, because there's a misconception there as well. Well, anyway, so the last biggest portal, there's a little portals that you go through, but the last one, there is no such thing as like passing through and you're done. As long as you're in this reality, that portal must always be guarded. But as long as you're guarding that portal, things gonna be all right. Okay? And sometimes you're gonna forget because all habits and whatnot distracted you from it. All right, put it back in, do your alchemy, do your devotion, poof, guard that portal, because there's nowhere else to go. You are at the ultimate portal, and surprise, surprise, you are the one who meant to fit into that portal, and you are the key. So you can move away from it, and you wouldn't, of course you're not going to want to move away from it because it's blissful and peaceful in your heart. The mind can still play games, your body can still play games, you can still be very functional in this life. Actually, probably for the first time, really functional. But for the time being, you're probably going to be experiencing yourself like free and liberated in terms of like there's no suffering, and but you walk around the structures that are corrupt and not right, but you don't care. With time, as long as you stay in there, you are going to create better structures and more holistic approaches to life, and it's gonna happen. So ultimately, once you discover that ultimate portal to the source, all you gotta do is guard it, and if it's gonna be all right. And this is what I've been saying about these 144. I know people say 144,000, but they say the word thousand because they don't know what thousand means. It's not thousand. Thousand means infinite, and it was written in a sense that you wouldn't, like, people who know would understand what thousand mean. Thousand means infinite. 144 infinite souls. It's not 144,000. This is how you can see whether they discovered that information, or they read somewhere and they created their belief theories. It's not 144,000, it's 144 souls. And that's all it takes to completely change this grid or matrix, if you will, of this planet. And if you sustain it long enough, it's going to solidify. It needs to go through one big cycle, of course, but if you sustain it long enough, within that one cycle, things are going to be changing drastically for the better, and nobody can do anything about it. No evil can survive. It's because you create a climate where evil cannot survive. You create a climate where parasites cannot reside anymore. There's too much light, right? And if you're listening to this video, you probably are one of those 144. And by the way, I have to say that it may not be 144 souls. It may be 144 positions. It may be 144 positions. And who's going to take that position? That may be up for the game. I don't know. Or I may be wrong. Maybe just but it just makes no sense to me that because a soul can play this game, then move on, and then who's going to play that role? Another soul must step in those shoes. So I think it's just a structure of consciousness of this video game, that the 144 positions. Yeah. But those positions, you may also say that they're destined for certain specific souls. And so then in a small picture or a smaller picture, it's probably means that 144 souls. That's all it takes. Not a lot, right? and that's and complete and ultimate power over the entire planet. But you can create this golden age by, if there are 144 alchemists doing their work and guarding the portal, where it's not supposed to be. Or at least you can create a golden age pockets in this reality. 100%, that is definite. That you can create a reality bubbles on this planet. And eventually those reality bubbles are going to be like Mercury, linking up with each other and growing and growing. And matrix societies shrinking, holistic societies growing. Naturally, because the conditions are made for that. This is why there's no point of focusing on anything else but the conditions that you're creating in your reality. Okay? If you create the conditions where the evil cannot exist, it won't exist. And that evil is inside of you because you're projecting everything. And if you visit that evil and have a little alchemy or devotion session, you can change it. It is toxic as shit. And it does require a certain type of approach where you take that toxic goo and you change it into the elixir of life. It becomes sort of like, to you, it's another way of saying guarding that portal, right? It's another way of saying guarding that portal. But to you, it does feel like poison is a material out of which you make the cure. So then you sort of don't avoid the poison, if that makes sense. You seek it out, actually. Whereas before you might have been like drunk on it, now you are changing it into the cure. Okay, that's it. That's my story of how you can be everything, but also have a contrast that shows you who you are not. And because that contrast is also you have capacity to alchemize that contrast, and through your own individual experience become have the qualities of the source within your soul. You become a godly, or what we call immortal soul, a godly soul. And thanks to this video game, you see, because yes, it starts ugly, but as you go through it, as you keep going, that's the end result. And as long as those 144 souls become infinite, the video game is going to be won, and all these 144 souls will have attained their goal in life, which was that philosopher's stone, or that infinite within temporal challenge. It's dope. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's enough. It's over 1 hour. All right. I'll see you next one. Peace.